The beginning of chapter 3, called Up in the Sky, features words from Revelation 10, verse 3. And he cried with a loud voice as when a lion roareth, and when he had cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices. This verse refers to St. John viewing an angel coming down from heaven from an earthly standpoint, whereas before, he'd been viewing the judgments from heaven. Just like John, Norman Mackay travels through different planes of existence in this chapter. While Superman and his disciples are discussing the state of metahuman activity on Earth, the Flash pulls Norman from the spirit realm into the superhero strata of reality. While among the superheroes, Norman prophesies that on Earth, the Armageddon is near, just before riots at the gulag containing metahumans erupt. In the final chapter, called Never-Ending Battle, verse 5 from Revelation 8 is repeated. There are voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. This verse describes the effects of the angel casting the golden censer onto earth and introduces the trumpeting that brings about God's destruction of the world. In this chapter, the judgment that Norman predicts comes to pass. Like the golden censer, the United Nations casts onto earth multi-megaton nuclear explosives as a way to ultimately save humanity. Although the bomb is partially stopped by Captain Marvel, it causes massive death to the metahuman population, just like the golden censer in the book of Revelation signals death.
As Jesus is the savior for Christians in the Bible, Superman is portrayed as the savior of humanity in DC's Kingdom Come. Parallels and contrasts are abundant between our two heroes. Jesus' second coming is meant to occur in Bethany upon Mount Olive, the same place where he ascended into heaven after he rose from the dead after being crucified. In Kingdom Come, on page 68, Superman descends upon the United Nations building in New York to deliver his gospel. The graphic novel actually references his return as the second coming of Superman. Superman's sermon is strikingly similar to that of Jesus' dictated word in the New Testament. He speaks of a new breed of metahumans, heroes unwilling to preserve life or defend the defenseless, who have perverted their great powers. Simply stated, these metahumans are the non-believers, the atheists, and the non-Christians of the world in the Bible. Jesus returns to Earth to punish the sinners and sanctify his followers, just as Superman and the Justice League has returned to teach them, the metahumans, the meaning of truth and justice, and above all, we will restore order. Jesus will return to restore the world, the people, animals, and relationships to the way it was before sin. Why do Mark Waid and Alex Ross choose to locate Superman's return to humanity on the steps of the United Nations building? First, it is important to understand the implications of the geographical switch from Bethany, which is close to Jerusalem, to Kansas in the American Midwest, along with the Jesus-Superman switch. Kansas is part of the Bible Belt of the American South. With DC Comics being an indulgement of Americana, it makes sense to set the graphic novel with such religious overtones in the epicenter of faith in the States. This serves a specific purpose. Superman lives in the same locale as its readers, and ergo they identify with the Man of Steel with more ease. The relocation of alarmingly biblical texts from the Middle East to the United States increases the approachability of the aged and distant text. Not to mention the accessibility of the revelation of St. John to a wider audience that would be hesitant to pick up a Bible, but is more likely to pick up a comic. Look at it in a personal perspective. Would you rather read the Bible with its archaic language, or a 21st century graphic novel Bible? Why does Superman choose to ascend upon the steps of the United Nations building? I endeavor to suggest that this act is a litmus test of sorts on our society's socio-religious temperature. Politics are the religion of the 21st century, and when we can as easily replace a deity with a superhero or a science fiction Moses, then we can easily impart the change of return location from a sanctified hill in Jerusalem to the steps of the political center of America. Politics and religion are indisputably ingrained. In 2007, 42% of religious devotees voted Democratic, while 38% voted Republican. 96% of churchgoers admitted that their religious beliefs affect their political vote at some time, while only 52% felt that the church should make known their political views. Ironically, of that same 56%, 41% felt that political leaders show their faith too little. The continuance of religion and political relationships is apparent also in the minute details of Kingdom Come. According to the placard on the desk of the UN Secretary of State, his name is Secretary General Wormwood. While misspelled, it is assuredly no coincidence that his name is also the name of the star fallen from heavens in Revelations. The name of the star is called Wormwood, and a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the waters because they were made bitter. Revelations 9:11. So what does this all mean? Well, Jesus Christ is a superhero of biblical proportions, pun intended. Religious leaders tell of how his crucifixion has absolved humankind of their sins they commit, and how he has vowed to return to earth to restore it to the Garden of Eden it was before sin, before humanity began to go down the path that we go now. Superman, as a superhero, does within the pages of Kingdom Come what Jesus is foretold to do within the pages of the Bible. He returns truth and justice to earth once it has gotten so badly out of hand that mere mortals can no longer handle what they have created.
My name is John Howe, and I'm a chaplain with Campus for Christ here at SFU, and I am a Christian and Protestant. So I would say that I don't agree with Alan Moore's his assessment. I think that, for example, if my wife and I were to have a child, that would change our relationship, not destroy it. And so I think that's an overstatement, and it's deconstructionist, maybe, philosophy that I don't really agree with. I just don't think it's necessarily true. But I understand what he's trying to say. And I think that the question is always that, you know, the story of Christ is the pinnacle of the Bible, that God would become man and come to earth to live and die for people. And that is, so everything else in the Bible is a retelling or an expression of that. And so to the degree that this story in Kingdom Come does that, is whether it would be a destruction of the story or whether it would be a retelling of the story, which brings it back to the Christ story. And so I think if it is a retelling of the story and is pointing towards Christ as the ultimate figure, as the ultimate superhero or whatever, then it's a very, very useful, sure. And if not, then it is definitely a deconstruction of the story. If it's just chasing the further goal of beauty or hope or a savior, a different kind of savior that we need, still waiting for, then I think it is definitely a deconstruction.
Burnham, I teach in the English department at Simon Fraser University.